So much of being a competent musician depends on your understanding of how the music works. Knowing how to detect a wrong note when rehearsing, or how to shape a phrase when performing, all comes down to your basic harmonic analysis skills. This video will take the guesswork out of chord analysis and give you a clear decision-making process to get the right chord symbol every time. We'll be working on how to use pop chord symbols, also known as lead sheet chord symbols. The first piece of information that you need to give when you're analyzing a chord is the chord's root. How do you do that? See what notes are in the chord and then identify the part of the chord for each. So what notes are in this chord? Going from bottom to top, we have a G, a B flat, and 2 E flats. And the easiest way to sort these into root position and identify the chord members is to memorize a set of words. These are 3-letter words and 4-letter words that are related to each other. So A, C, E, G is not a word, but it is something you can remember like it's a word. In the order A, C, E, G, the chord is in root position, and its root is A. B, D, F, A is also a word that's in root position. There are 7 of these 4-letter words, and if you chop off the last letter of each, you get the triads. So these are all of the 7th chords and triads. You know how to put them in root position just by sorting the notes into that order. So which of these words matches the notes of the chord we're working on? When you're looking, make sure the first letter of the word is one of the notes of the chord. One of the 4-letter words is E, G, B, D, and the chord is the first 3 letters of that word. E flat, G, and B flat. So its root is E flat. Next, let's determine the chord's inversion by looking at the parts of the chord and which of these is the lowest pitch in the chord, or the bass note. What's the bass note of this chord? The bass note is the lowest sounding pitch in the chord, so in this case, it's the G. So we've got our root E flat, and the G is called the 3rd, and the B flat is called the 5th. Now to tell me its inversion, you figure out which one of these is the bass note. So if E flat is in the bass, it's root position. If the 3rd is the bass note, it's in first inversion. If the 5th is the bass note, it's in second inversion. So this chord is in first inversion. After identifying the root and the inversion, you also need to identify the chord's quality by identifying the interval types in the chord. For this, you need to know how to identify interval qualities between pairs of notes in the chord. There's one pair of notes that doesn't actually matter, and when you get to 7th chords, there's more than one pair that doesn't actually matter. That's because we will always just measure the intervals from the root. Measure the root up to the 3rd as an interval, and then measure the root up to the 5th as an interval. And if you have a 7th, then you measure that as well. So the root of this chord, E flat up to G, is a 3rd. And what type of 3rd is it? Remember that you can just ask if the top note is in the major key of the bottom note. If it is major or perfect. If it's smaller, it's minor or diminished. And if it's bigger, it's augmented. So since G is in the key signature of E flat major, E flat up to G is a major 3rd. What about E up to B flat? B flat is in the key of E flat major, so this also is either major or perfect. How do you know which? Remember that unisons, fourths, fifths, and octaves are the perfect consonances, and seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths are the imperfect consonances and diatonic dissonances, which come in both major and minor flavors before becoming diminished or augmented. So E flat up to B flat is a perfect 5th. By using our skill in determining intervals, we can use the intervals from the root to figure out what the chord's quality is. If the chord is major or minor, then it's going to have a perfect fifth from the root up to the fifth. If it doesn't have a perfect fifth, then it's not major or minor. Then, once you've figured out if it's either major or minor, you look at the root up to the third to decide whether it's a major or minor triad. If the interval is a major third, then it's a major triad. If it's a minor third, then it's a minor triad. But what if I had gotten a diminished fifth between the root and fifth? Well, the only quality of triad that has a diminished fifth from the root up to the fifth is a diminished triad. But what's the third going to be? It has to be minor. The third's quality always follows the quality of the fifth. So if you have a major third and a diminished fifth, that's not something that exists, at least not yet. We'll worry about these later. And if you have an augmented fifth, it's an augmented triad. And the third has to be major, or else that's something else that doesn't exist. So the abbreviated symbols for the four triad qualities are a triangle for major, a dash for minor, a plus for augmented, and a circle for diminished. While there are only really 4 types of triads, there are more different types of seventh chords. So we'll spend a little time working on these as well. The seventh qualities are distinguished using their triad quality and the quality of the interval from the root up to the seventh. So we can have a major major seventh, which is a major triad with a major seventh chord, a major minor seventh chord, which is a major triad with a minor seventh, also known as the dominant seventh, a minor minor seventh chord, a minor triad with a minor seventh, a diminished minor seventh, also known as half diminished, and a diminished diminished seventh, also known as fully diminished. These also have abbreviated names for use in pop chord symbols. If the triad and the seventh qualities are the same, like in a minor minor seventh chord, we just use that quality once instead of twice in the abbreviated name. If the triad and seventh qualities are not the same, there's usually a nickname for the chord. Major minor seventh is the dominant seventh, and its abbreviated symbol is just a 7. And diminished minor seventh is half diminished, and its abbreviated symbol is a slashed circle. Now that we have the 3 pieces of information that we need, root, quality, and inversion, we can build our pop chord symbol. First, you give the root as a capital letter plus a sharp or flat if it needs one. In this case, it's E flat. Then you give an abbreviated form of the chord's quality using the set of shortcuts and abbreviations that we just went over. If it's major, you can put a triangle, or more commonly, people just leave it blank because major is the default. So we'll just say E flat for this chord. Lastly, you tell me if the bass note is the root or if there's a different bass note. In this case, there's a different bass note because the chord is in first inversion. So in any inverted chord, you give a slash and then you tell me what the bass note is. Always put your pop chord symbols above the music to leave room below the music for the rest of your analysis. And here's a cheat sheet that you can use to work on your ability to do analysis with pop chord symbols. Pop chord symbols are only the first step in analysis. A more informative harmonic analysis system includes Roman numerals and functional bass symbols, which help you to see how the chords work in the context of the key. But you can still identify all the chords with their root, inversion, and quality before you even figure out what key the chords are in. And the chord analysis is a way more reliable tool for deciding the key than the key signature or what the last note is. We'll explore identifying the key from the chord analysis in the next video, so I will see you there.